holy Aureus, by your radiance grant me the strength to continue to endure these dark days, to lay bare the path to salvation. And yet you now appear before me, a stranger, a betrayal made flesh, and one I cannot brook.
Hello, the YouTube people. It's me again with another Gamescom related video. I got to go and check out Lords of the Fallen 2, or I think it's just called Lords of the Fallen again. I mean, I think it's just called the same one as the last one. I guess because it's so different than the last one, and obviously leans heavily onto Dark Souls, Elden Ring now, rather than really... It has its own flavor, but I mean, it is very, very, very Souls. We got to have a little go. I played actually an hour, I think, and the hour went really quick as well. It was just enjoyable just to have to sit at Gamescom, particularly with all the madness of running around the show floor, to sit and play a game for an hour. And I played from the very start, made a little character, chose a class, which was kind of some sort of paladin-y type thing, caster, mason shield hybrid. I was advised that it was actually quite a hard class to start as, but I thought, you know what, I'm hard! The starting classes, there are lots of different starting classes, but this one, like I say, is some sort of hybrid class. There were ones, there's the classic like Condemned that's got nothing, there's your knight, there's your dog, there's a few different things there, but ultimately the starting classes don't mean much because you level up, you build into different things. It's got all the classic things you expect from these type of games: weapon builds, stats, you know, upgrading, spending your, I don't know what they call them this, but I'm going to call them souls, spending your souls to upgrade. I'm sure there are many hidden weapons and armors and stuff like that you can equip. I found a few sets of armor, which obviously have all the different resistances and all that kind of stuff. All very much familiar to people who enjoy the genre of these games. And yeah, just got stuck in. This build was also the entire game, so technically I could, if I found some kind of way of speed running it, the dev was like, yeah, you could complete this if you knew the ways to do it in an hour. So I thought that was interesting. But also interesting because if it is the whole build and it is completable within an hour, with speedrun strats, obviously, like running through, avoiding, getting shortcuts, I wonder how long the actual whole game is. I'm very happy if it's a short and sweet game, to be honest. I'm sick of these massive games. Elden Ring gets an exception because it's absolutely quality, but I like a short and sweet game generally. So let's get into it. Yeah, what should we start with? Oh, I don't know. Graphics? I mean, it looks marvelous. Lighting, really nice. Environments, mega detailed. Kind of looks like the Demon Souls remake on PS5, which I absolutely loved and think looks amazing as well. Graphically, very tasty for my eyeballs. UI was pretty clean. I mean, the UI is Elden Ring or Bloodborne or all of them. I mean, like I say, they've kind of gone, right, for the new one, let's just lean into what people of this genre want to see and are familiar with. And I have no issue with that whatsoever, to be honest. The styling of the game is nice. It's very familiar. It does kind of feel, it doesn't kind of feels like the last one kind of had its own, a really sort of unique style and flavor, but a lot of people didn't enjoy it as much, whereas this one's leaned more into the gothicness and dredgery that you might find in a Souls game. It's nice. It's easy to pick up if you've played Elden Ring or Dark Souls or Bloodborne or that. You're going to be able to pick up the gameplay very quickly, as it is sort of all the same. So talking of the gameplay, yeah, dodges, parries, light attack, heavy attack. I didn't have any kind of special attack on my mace, but who knows? There might be stuff like that in the full meme. Blocking, running, jumping. The controls are exactly the same. You've got your stamina, you've got your mana, you've got your health, you've got your pots, or there's a sanguine cross in this, and you just run around and get to the checkpoints, which are vestiges. They're like statues, so we all call them bonfires, don't we? Let's face it. And the gameplay was tight. It didn't feel maybe as tight as something like Elden Ring, which has obviously been honed over FromSoft have honed it over many years. Obviously, I'm going to draw lots of parallels this video because it is, you know, of the genre and very much a side sidequel, in my opinion, to these type of games, because of the amount of it's a whole genre in its own, I know now, but this one in particular felt very much, let's try and get it as close to FromSoft's games as possible, which again, I really don't have any issue with. I had a spell on my character as well. I thought it was a throwing dagger, but it's like a bell. So I was a half caster roll, so it's like a little, I don't know, like a little knifey light strike, which I did use to some effect, actually. As I'm a big fan of cheesing these games as much as I can, you know, just being able to range enemies down and taking no damage, I like that. I like that a lot. That kind of gameplay, very familiar, pretty good. I mean, it's not maybe as tight as it could be, but I think it is good. And this is just being nitpicky, but you know, there's all sorts of dodging. You can double tap dodge. You can kick as well. There's parrying. There's a stagger bar on the enemies as well around there. When you target them, there's a little circle in the middle. If you deplete the circle, you can stagger an enemy and do an execute. Every attack does stagger damage as well, so that kind of feels like Sekiro in a way. Heavy attacks. There's parries. There's also a kick. So you press LBRB and you can do a little kick to put enemies off balance, and if they're blocking as well, and if their stagger bar's depleted, it will put them fully down for an execute. Now, in terms of general level design and gameplay, though, the biggest I'd say niche or difference for this game is the umbral mechanics. The umbral is an entire plane of existence that exists across the entire game as you're playing. If you've got a little lamp in your back pocket, and your lamp can peek into the umbral and show you things that are different, obviously, to your physical realm. There's lots of locked doors, for example, that you won't be able to go through, and if you peek into the umbral, it's got a hideous creature on it, and you've got to follow a pipe and go and kill the umbral distortion in the umbral realm. There's gates which won't exist in the umbral realm, so if there's a blocked gate, you could peek into the umbral and just walk through it. You're kind of existing in and out of our dimensions there. It does remind me of Soul Reaver. If anyone played Soul Reaver back in the day, you had the two realms you could switch between, and sometimes a lot of the puzzles depended on switching between the physical and shadow realm, you know, upside down, whatever you want to call it, all right? Because the levels would be so different between the realms, and there's items in the physical and the umbral realm to get, so a lot, you know, rewards for exploration there. There's some unique mechanics to the umbral realm as well. You can, if you like, fully switch into the umbral realm whilst holding your torch and holding X. You sort of release your spirit, if you like, and then you're fully in the umbral realm then. You can't leave unless you find a little plant that's knocking about and to emerge from the umbral realm. So it's not like you can switch at will. You can go in, but to come out it's a little bit harder. And once you're in as well, the longer you stay in there, the more there's a little eye that gets wider and wider and wider, and more harder enemies start to spawn. So don't stay in the umbral too long. But there are things you need to do in there. So there's various corpses on walls that you need to sort of purge, and that will do various things. It can move platforms, it can open doors, it can change the level, and then you've got to go back into the physical realm and maybe go through those doors that are now unlocked. There's lots of puzzle mechanics there. There's a few more things to do with the umbral as well. There's a bloody flower beds in the umbral realm. You can get seeds, which you can plant in these flower beds, which actually act as not only a way of emerging from the umbral realm back to the physical realm, but also as a bonfire or a vestige, so that you can upgrade, level up, refresh your flasks or sanguine cross in this game. But those seeds, I've been told, were very rare. There's more flower beds than seeds, so the idea being you can make your own bonfires in places. If you're finding this level particularly hard, I'm going to make my own checkpoint. You know, in the early parts of the game, you had 4 or 5 seeds, and you did it on every single flower bed. Yes, you've made lots of checkpoints, but then later in the game, when you know, there's harder levels, you're gonna be like, oh, where's my seeds? I wish I had planted all them. You can use the umbral mechanics as a sort of way of damaging heavy enemies and bosses as well by siphoning energy from the umbral realm. There's like little nodes on the walls that you suck off. That's right. And you get like, there's a little dot beneath your mana bar, and that's you get a siphon energy ball, and you can use that to rip the soul out of an enemy, which kind of temporarily stuns them, and you can, you know, go to town on their soul. Then when their soul gets sucked back into their body, they take the damage that you did to that soul, and then it's usually a big chunk of damage. It's also a way of, if you do it on a boss, you can sort of stagger them quicker. It doesn't rip the soul out. Well, it didn't on the boss I fought, but it staggers them quicker as well. So there's a bit of a mechanic there for saving up your siphon shots, or however you want to call it, your siphon charges, and using them on enemies that are kicking your bottom. So in that way, there's a lot of I know I've just explained all those mechanics, and there is a lot. And when I was playing through the tutorial, I was like, Jesus, like this is a lot. But it's nice to have something different that's unique to the game. Because if it didn't have that, it would quite literally just be a carbon copy of a modern Souls game. Difficulty was okay. I played through the tutorial and then maybe the first level. It didn't feel like, oh god, this is you know, this is a bloody joke. They've gone too far. But then I am fairly experienced with these games now, and I was kind of cheesing it a bit as well. It didn't feel that bad. So it could be a good one to play if you like these type of games, but I've always thought they're a little bit, maybe the Souls games are a bit too tough. I don't think this one, and maybe, oh well, again, only in the first level. I don't know what it's going to be like later in the latterly parts of the game. Audio, let's talk about the audio. No one ever talks about audio in games, and I know that's a big no-no. Audio is half the game. You know, the atmosphere is so important on these type of games, and audio plays a big part of that. You know what, I had my headphones round my neck when I was playing at the event because I was chatting to the dev at the same time. So the first time I kind of heard the audio was watching back this footage at home, and I was actually really impressed. I think it sounds really cool and really atmospheric. The music for the boss fight in particular is fucking awesome. And combined with all the sort of unique effects for coming in and out of Umbral and stuff like that. The only thing I thought could use some work, so you can parry enemies, right? With your shield classic, let LB to parry people as they hit you, does stagger damage. It's kind of hard to tell when you've parried someone because the sound effect I don't think is as impactful as maybe other games where it really makes a big obvious ding, or even like a big chime to go, and maybe some sparks or something. There is a sound effect and a visual, but it's not that much different from the other hit effects and sounds. So I was a bit like, hey, have I parried him? But then you have to just look at their tiny little stagger bar to go, oh, I think I have. I've got my bloody glasses on. Yeah, the stagger bar could maybe have done with being just above their head rather on the circle of the targeting reticule, but who am I to judge? Well, I'll tell you who I am. I'm Tommy from Two Angry Gamers TV, and I played Lords of the Fallen at Gamescom 2023. I'm looking forward to the full release in October. I'm sure it'll get a lot harder, and I'm sure I'll recount a lot of these comments and say, do you know what? Bugger off, CI Games. You've annoyed me with another one of your infuriating Souls-like type things.